I started this video, and the initial intent was to talk about John Phelan, who is the Navy Secretary appointed by Trump, who showed up on the Epstein flight list in 2006, a few months before Epstein was charged with sexual molestation of an underage girl. Also on the plane was Jean-Luc Brunel, who was a close associate of Epstein. He was arrested in December 2020 on allegations of rape, sexual assault, and trafficking of minors, and then mysteriously died 2 years later by suicide. Again, remember that Epstein died of suicide about a month after he was arrested, and that was back in 2019 under the first Trump administration. And so the goal was to talk about Phelan and the fact that yet another person inside of Trump's administration has been found on the list. And, that goes with Lutnick, who's a part of the administration, Howard Lutnick. That goes with Musk. That goes with Acosta, who was one of the lawyers in Florida who gave Epstein like a sweetheart deal the first time or second time he was arrested. Pam Bondi, who has been a part of this as well down in Florida before she became DOJ. And started looking into it a little bit more. And there was just some reporting a couple hours ago where the AP said, the FBI had concluded that Epstein was horrible, but had nothing to do with soliciting minors for rich, powerful people. And the FBI said this in 2019 during the first Trump administration. And then in 2025, just before the victims started coming out in August, they did this in July as like a precursor and saying there's nothing to see here. No videos, no nothing, and we couldn't find any evidence, which I find intriguing. And Spectrum News just talked about it. I think AP was talking about in the files that they had reviewed so far, and what the FBI had said in 2019 and 2025 said that hey, we can't find anything. But the AP mentioned that there's still about 3 million documents and piece of information out there that the DOJ hasn't released yet. So I think what we're going to see is there's going to be an attempt to see if it takes off, but there's going to be an attempt to say like, hey, we already looked into this, and there was no, solicitation for minors, for, a big cobble of rich, powerful, elite people, even though their names keep popping up everywhere. And, we're doing everything in the world that we can to hide these documents and redact the name of powerful people, but throw out the names of victims and survivors, right? So I think we need to watch for that. And that stuff just kind of popped up today. So go take a look at that. So, yeah. And you can look over to the UK where there is accountability building over there. You have Starmer coming out and people resigning over connections to Epstein. And this is not just there, but also in other countries. And that's not because Epstein was just doing stuff himself, right? He wasn't doing stuff himself. Musk wasn't asking him to go to wild parties on his island where all this was happening because he was just doing it himself. And so if the UK is pushing this and getting accountability for anybody associated with Epstein, there's more there. And they know there's more there. I would have no doubt that they have access to all the files. And I feel like we're in kind of like the precursor to the big, quote unquote show, which I think is going to come out in the next couple of months. And I think Epstein is going to get, really crazy, and it should. And I think there's going to be a lot more information that comes out about who was involved and what happened. So I think there's a little sampling right now of them trying to say that there was no big ring of rich, powerful people who were associating with minors through Epstein. But it doesn't really seem like that is backed up by what has been released and how hard they are trying to cover this up. So Yeah, started out talking about Phelan, yet another person in this administration who's involved with Epstein, and is denying that he knew anything about it. Of course, but there are bigger things at play, and I think there will be an attempt to cover it up. And so people like Bondi and Patel and some of the individuals in the DOJ, Blanche, of course, all those folks and what they've been trying to do, I think that's going to start to come out, especially as more of these files come out, more of this information, because it will. And I know a lot of people are worried about it, but it will. I think there's already copies out there, and I hate to say that they're going to kind of make this a show because survivors don't deserve that, but I think it's going to be a massive thing as we get closer into the summer, and closer to midterms. And so, for their sake, for the survivors' sake, I just want justice done as fast as possible. But yeah, more and more is coming out, and please take a look at that. So don't get concerned about them trying to bury it. I don't think they're going to be able to. I think it's way too far gone, especially with half the documents still out there. And we've already seen all of this happen with just the 3 million that we've seen so far. And if the UK and other countries are removing people because of this, I think that's the starter kit. So, yeah, thanks.